Well, welcome to the marketing trench. We all got here a long time ago. I swear to God, it didn't just happen 30 seconds ago. Good to see you guys. Today we're bringing on special guest Mark Ingles from Bazoink, and Mark specializes in, among other things, advertising on Google and Facebook. There's been news recently about big changes that Google is making to its platform. Theoretically, they're going to, make advertising. They're going to make it a more private sort of experience for consumers. Theoretically, we might get into some of that. But at a high level, if you are in sales and marketing and you're trying to think about where should I spend my money, Google or Facebook, it's not the same value proposition. It's not the same ad spend in terms of, what you should be expecting. And so we wanted to really just suss that out, dive into it, figure out like what the real meaningful differences are. And I'm actually going to toss this over to Mark right away and say, Mark, at a high level, how would you categorize or talk about Facebook ads versus Google ads?
We talk a lot about if you have a Facebook business or a Google business. So a Google business is something that you can serve right now. It's something you can serve fixing a problem right now. A Facebook business is you are interrupting someone and they might not have a need right now. So if someone's absolutely dying for a mortgage or to find a new home, they're on Google or Zillow or one of these search engines. If they're just thinking about it, that's where you can pick them up on Facebook. So the intent of the person is very different and your marketing message is a lot different. Facebook is, I'm Scott Schang. I'm the world's second greatest mortgage broker ever. And listen to me. And then on Google, it's I'm Scott Schang. I can get you a loan as quickly as any human known. So your messaging is a lot different. It's sort of farming versus hunting too. Farming on Facebook, you're spending plenty of time planting and tending, and it's the same general group of people. On Google, it's new people coming through all the time with the same problem, new people with the same problem. So you have to be a bit more direct and responsive to those folks.
Makes a lot of sense. Scott, you were one of the ones who drove this conversation. Do you have anything to add to that or something we should be thinking about as we dive in under those kind of two frameworks?
No, Mark did a really good job. And it's really to answer the question or dispel the myth that I have a budget, I want to do advertising, which is better, Facebook or Google, because they're completely different messages, completely different audiences. They're definitely different. People get attracted to Facebook because it's cheaper, but you're catching them so much earlier in the decision-making process. You're doing more of an education part and kind of starting to earn their trust. So that you can get them in your database, bring them into your sphere, or whatever, so you can control the kind of the journey. But no, Mark did a fantastic job of describing it. And it's also very, very different for again, mortgage versus real estate, because a real estate agent may have a home for sale right now, right? And you might want to put that up on Google because people are looking for a house right now, whereas mortgage people are doing ads for down payment assistance, buy a house for as much as you're paying for rent, and they're very different messages. And so I guess the answer is not which one. The answer is, how do I modify my message so that I'm getting the highest conversion from the money that I'm spending? And sometimes the answer is both, right?
So
but it's not the same ad that you're copying and pasting from Facebook.
So Ricardo, you spend a lot of time talking to real estate agents, and they come to you. They have money in the hand, and they want to throw it at something. What are some of the questions they're asking that we can maybe take to Scott and to Mark here, and sort of help agents to think about which platform they should be using?
Well, so my first question is always, what's your budget? When somebody can't answer that question, that's kind of a red flag to me. But my first question is always, what's your budget? The second thing that I try to do is I set an expectation that Scott and I say this all the time. I got it from you, Scott. It's people on Facebook are early entry buyers. They're way early entry buyers. They're at the beginning stages, if that, in their buying journey. And when you're marketing to them on Facebook, you're like Mark said, it's interruption marketing. Somebody that's further along in the process is already pre-approved. They know what they're looking for. They're going to Google to find specifically a 2-story, 3-bed, 3-bath house, and their requirements are 1 bed, 1 bath on the first floor. That person isn't lingering on Facebook trying to find that inventory. They're literally going on Google, finding that trying to find that inventory through their Google searches. So I don't know. I think my first question is always, A, what's your budget? Agents do invest a lot in Facebook first because we get leads between $4 and $6 per lead. So your advertising dollar can be stretched a lot further. But I think part of the problem is this is where we spend a lot of time setting expectations. It's not, run an ad, get commission check. There's a whole part in the middle where somebody said to me, being successful in this business is doing 3 things: meet people, nurture the relationship, close transactions. And it's just rinse and repeat. Meet people, nurture the relationship, close transactions. I think what's happening when we run ads is we're creating opportunities to meet people, but we're not nurturing the relationship. And then we get upset when we're not closing transactions. It's like, dude, you're forgetting this big part right in the middle.
There's 2 islands and no bridge.
Right.
Right? You're like, hello.
So I'll have people say, I tried Facebook ads, they didn't work. And, we can talk about that and deconstruct that. I think that if you go to Google and you spend money on Google, you have to have a bigger budget, but you also have to be on top of your game because that's a higher quality lead. It's a higher intent lead.
Higher cost.
That's what I was going to say. A much higher cost. So if you're doing a poor job of nurturing the relationship on Facebook, going to Google because it's higher quality and higher cost, like you still have to fix what's broken, which is that nurture process. If you don't have a nurture process in place, you're just throwing money at another solution that's probably not going to pay dividends.
Okay, so I'm curious, Mark, what do you think of Ricardo's idea of using Facebook as a nurture? And if you like it, can you give some examples that you've seen or executed on that really evidence how someone might use Facebook to nurture a relationship?
I absolutely agree with it. With that, Ricardo, it's the most brilliant thing you've said so far.
That's awesome.
The well might be dry. So.
Okay. I'll give out compliments like they're free. Okay. So with Google, like we have really high intent in a short time frame. Everything I've done on Google, you have to, the faster that we call someone that becomes a lead measured from minutes to seconds, the more successful we are. On Facebook, they're not high intent like you guys have said, and so nurturing is. Sharing success stories is one of the easiest things to do. Testimonials, making your clients the heroes of problems you've solved, deals you've done, and new information. And the new information is tricky because we're all really experts in our field. So we tend to geek out on the really deep new information jargon, and a lot of times it's here's a new way to use a down payment program that I'd sort of forgotten about that somebody talked about, or here's a new neighborhood that has been overlooked and is up and coming. Whatever it might be, it's sharing your expertise and making your customers heroes. So all of that nurturing is almost always what you talk about over a beer with some friends, what you'd tell a client who's also a friend. That nurturing the relationship is treating someone like a human instead of saying buy, sell. Let's spend some time. Here's some wins. Here's my expertise. Here's how you can share in the successes. Here's how you can have some wins. But I really spend a lot of time with testimonials and success stories as part of the nurturing process. And you can only say there's this down payment assistance program 3 different ways. But 100 people can say it a whole bunch of different ways for you. Mm-hmm. You can share a success of how you've helped someone in their own words so much better. So that's generally how I do nurturing. And I also the next most common question is how long should I nurture? Sort of the really high level rule of thumb is whatever it takes for your average transaction to go from lead to nurture to sale to close deal, double that is the original sort of high level thing. But if you know that there's if you work faster or you don't have a tremendous budget, you want to start with whatever you think it might be. So if the lead started on Google, you may only want to nurture for a month. If the lead started on Facebook, because they're so much earlier in their process, you might want to nurture for 3 months or 6 months. And you don't spend the same amount of time and effort nurturing month 5 as you do week 1. Really common thing that I see. So less information and more transformation in the stories that you tell on Facebook is probably another high level way to look at it.
I think the art is striking a balance between being persistent but not pestering.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also want to introduce something in, because Mark there's what's always left out of these conversations, and Mark is an expert at this, and this is really why I was excited to have him on, is you don't hear a lot of conversation about YouTube. And I think YouTube is a very similar type of platform as Facebook, but it's a totally different audience, but it's an opportunity to have the same type of messaging. Mark, you've had some experience with there are some industries that Google just decides, we're not going to let these show up in search results anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you were able to convert those. And this doesn't have to be about real estate and mortgage specifically. I think having a conversation about how these platforms work, and what the audience is and what the conversion opportunities are. But talk a little bit about where YouTube fits into this, because it's kind of in between the two, right?
Mm-hmm. So my Google is break fix, I have a problem, and when you're on Google search, when you're searching, and Facebook is, I don't have a problem, I just want to scroll and be entertained. And so your point is exactly right, Scott. YouTube's somewhere in the middle. People go to YouTube to be entertained. People go to YouTube to solve problems. Most of my personal YouTube usage is, how do I fix this thing or do this thing, right? And so they're very different too. I do a lot of YouTube and Facebook in one of my main clients, and this week's numbers, the YouTube leads we get on the phone, 35% more than we get Facebook leads on the phone. It's pretty much the same creative. It's exactly the same offer. They just act differently because they're in the mindset of one is I'm being entertained, and two, I'm not looking for a distraction. I'm at least focused on something. I've really noticed that. So we'll take almost the same ad and sort of reformat it and add some different overlays for YouTube from Facebook, put it on YouTube, and we have a pretty solid start. And the YouTube folks generally convert middle of the road. Google search is very high intent, as we've said, very high cost, and Facebook leads are very low cost, very low intent. And YouTube seems to be exactly, the bridge between the two. I'm becoming more and more focused on YouTube ads from Facebook and Google search, because that's where lots of people are. And anyone who's advertised in Facebook in the last year has known you don't know if you're going to wake up and it's going to work the next day from whether you're banned, shut down, or it just stopped working.
It sucks.
Yep. And if you followed anything, they said a couple weeks before the election in November, they were going to turn off political ads and then turn them back on at an unknown time in the future. That unknown time in the future was yesterday. So Facebook just arbitrarily turns things on and off, and YouTube hasn't suffered that yet. So it's a bit more stable. I got into marketing online in pay-per-click and Google search many, many years ago. And I liked it because it was very predictable and reliable versus SEO, where I'd have to wait and hope. And so YouTube seems to be the same idea of it's very predictable right now and very resilient. And Scott, to your point, I was working with some people who dealt with the IRS for you, attorneys, and Google search decided they didn't want anyone related to that whole world. So we went over to YouTube and were able to continue to successfully run campaigns. Even though they're both Google properties, there's one set of rules for search and another set of rules for YouTube, and we were able to run there for a while. So YouTube is also the hot new topic. YouTube, TikTok, you hear all these things. So it's becoming more competitive, but almost all of your success is in your video, and there's not that many levers. Me as a paid traffic guy, I'd love to tell you it's really complicated, but YouTube advertising is actually, it has a lot of the ease of Facebook ads as well as the power of Google search. So it's a really nice middle ground.
Could you also talk a little bit about, because the YouTube ad back end, that's Google AdWords, isn't it? Or
it is.
Okay. So can you talk a little bit on like targeting? Because I know like Facebook, again, it's interruption marketing, and here in the housing industry, mortgage and real estate, last year we went through custom audience, or we went through
special. It's a
special ad categories. And they just decided you can't target by zip code because that is like redlining or something. But what you're doing is you're kind of choosing anybody that's interested in these things, but Google AdWords is a little bit different, right? Like they have like these in-market segments, and I'm not a Google AdWords expert, but they're kind of like, they can identify if somebody is searching for something, and you have the ability to say, even on YouTube, if somebody is searching for things around real estate or things around student loans, show them this video or have it pop up.
Sure, that's been one of my secret tricks for about the last year, and it's pretty popular now. But YouTube lets you advertise to people that searched on Google for something. So using this IRS attorney as an example, we were paying, our average cost per click was around $40 on Google search. So every time somebody clicked, $40 up in fire. On YouTube, we were getting those same clicks. Now someone had watched a video and then clicked for about $3. And we were targeting
No way.
The secret sauce for it's becoming more obvious. But so you can create these audiences that this is what they searched into Google, not show up on the Google search results, but then be able to target them with videos. And so there's some accounts that I've just not got to work in any way other than that. So you can say, hey, this is someone searched for mortgage broker near me, real estate agent near me. Any of those terms you can put in, add your geography of zip codes if you want, or radius or counties or cities. And then Google will show your videos, your ads, only to people that had already searched for those terms. So you're sort of siphoning off the Google search traffic without having to compete with those really high click costs.
And you have the ability to engage with the consumer through video, which is far more personal and is going to be a much higher trust, much higher level of trust, right? But so that's I think YouTube is like that. It is really that for anybody that's like, oh, I'm not good on video, I'm afraid to be on video. Well, this last year, I bet you probably did 100,000 Zoom calls on video. You're fine. Nobody who you were Zoom calling with ran away screaming or passed out because of your appearance or your conversation. So I think that's a really important distinction. And there is this third leg, and as far as I know, Mark, isn't YouTube still the second largest search engine? Isn't it Google, YouTube, and then Facebook when they come out with the most searches?
Amazon's in there, not necessarily Facebook. I don't remember who's number one. Google's number one, but I don't remember the rest of the top few, but it's huge.
Sites occupy the first 5 slots.
So let's talk about messaging, because messaging does matter. I think, so one of the ads, like I have agents that want to run an ad. Don't miss out on this hot buyer's market. I live here. I've worked here for 15 years. There's no inventory, but call me to come get it. Like, call me to come get the only inventory on the market. And I don't think that. I think your message, you need to detach yourself away from the message. So it's not all about you. You have to make it about the consumer. the internet works off of social proof. Like I remember when I was looking to hire an accountability coach, I read through all of the testimonials on the page before I signed up, because I wanted to read some semblance of my story and other people's stories, because I wanted to find people just like me to see if this was going to be able to solve my issue, or if I was trying to find some common ground or some commonality, right? So I think if you can do that, like that stuff is powerful. So an ad that I would run, and if I was running a Facebook ad, I tell my agents, put yourself in the customer's shoes. So maybe you do a carousel ad and you say, the first image is a question: where will we move when we sell our house with so little in the market to choose from? How do we safely sell during a global pandemic? Or what are some small improvements we can make to make more money on our house? And then the agent, if you're like most people considering selling in 2021, these are some of the questions that have popped into your head. Look to see how we helped Ricardo and Ashley find their dream home while safely putting their current home in escrow. We can do the same for you. Who do you know that's in a similar situation that we can help? Like, click the link below to find out what your home is worth, blah, 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 blah. How do you convey that or translate something like that to video? Because I love what you said about, telling customer stories and leveraging those. How do you convey that or transfer that to a powerful video?
In YouTube, we've all watched YouTube, and my kids don't get very much screen time at all. But I'll tell you, they can grab their grandparents' phone, turn on YouTube, and then they smash where the skip button should be, skip ad. So in YouTube, we have 5 seconds to grab someone's attention and promise them that second 6 is worth watching, right?
That's
so
good.
Your idea in the carousel ad is exactly right. I can use curiosity, or I could use a bold claim generally. So curiosity, what few things can I do what small things can I do to improve my home value? You have to grab somebody grab their attention in 5 seconds. And so your point, Ricardo, about it can't be about me. It has to be about the viewer is the most important thing. Can I see myself as that person? So I either have to make a really big, bold claim or have some curiosity in the first 5 seconds. Then it's just, as you said, a bunch of proof elements, as much as you can. And I'm a really big fan of offers. And I want to list your house is the end result. But let me make a bunch of smaller offers that would be interesting before we go through with the whole process. So those offers, like you just said, are bits of information that establish me as an expert, have some reciprocity that I've given you some good things, so maybe you should talk to me, and not be just like everyone else. It's the most important. So
would that be like a click the link in the description below to get a local market report or something like that? Is it white papers? What kind of offers?
Let's frame what's happening. Someone doesn't want to watch our ad. They want to watch something else. And so our ad comes up for 5 seconds and we've done something to get their attention. I like curiosity I like curiosity more than big, bold claims usually. Because I'm a naturally curious person. But let's say that we've got their attention, we've given them some value, some proof, and now we need to take them away from what they wanted to watch over to somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And so what is going to be powerful enough? The cop-out answer is test everything, right? Right? That's the real answer, but it's also the cop-out.
That's funny.
Pick whatever your strongest offers that you know of or that you've heard of. And remember, everyone is offering value of your home. Mm-hmm. So let's put a twist on that. The value of your home, if you made the 3 small changes that I talked about, we can talk, because everything else is going to be automated. But if you added some caulk and paint that makes it what it ain't, or whatever those tips are, let's talk about that. So let's put a new twist on an old offer. So home value, including these, how much it would go up by doing these 3 things. Or, timing is a lot right now, I believe, and you guys know the market a little better than me, but, how quickly or slowly you can do things if necessary. So trying to put twists on an old offer is probably the most important thing. And Scott, when you're starting out, and for most folks in the audience, you have to get them to click the link in the description. So they have to do some work, especially on mobile, to get to that link. So it has to be a pretty strong offer. But I do like a new twist on an old offer because there's only so many things you can do. Does that help, guys?
Yeah.
Are they clicking on a link to go to essentially a landing page where they then enter their info, or you're not doing it? You can't do it like a lead ad the way you would on Facebook.
You actually can do a lead ad now on YouTube, but I have exactly 0 experience in that. It's on my long list of things to test over the next few months, but Google and YouTube rolled that out in the past month or 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that those ads, lead ads or lead forms, are going to be very similar to Facebook in that they're lower intent but higher in volume and cheap.
Low friction.
Mm-hmm.
So
profile data and auto-populate their login data like Facebook does?
I think so. So follow-up question to that then is, what's a good sort of rule of thumb or rules of thumb for having a good message match between your ad and when they hit your website? So if you're trying to get them to convert on a home value ad plus these 3 tips to improve it, you can't have them go to your homepage and your home value form is halfway down the page.
Right. So always a landing page. And if I've been doing a ton of testing on Facebook with video and image formats, and this should come as no surprise, but I did do a bunch of testing. A video ad that leads to a landing page with a video, and then another video after they opt in, or in this case, it's been a lot of quizzes, performs best. Now, we've also tested a video ad going to a landing page that looks like it has a video on it, and when you go to press play, it actually pops up the opt-in form, which
Dirty.
might be a little dirty. I don't know. That seems to be doing pretty well too, and then it still goes to a page with a video. If you can't tell from behind me, I like to read. And so I'm more of a reader than a video person. So I had to test all those things because I really didn't believe them to be true. But there's far fewer readers than there are viewers these days. So if you're offering a free home value in the ad and the tips, the landing page should have, here's your home value, and then here's the tips, and then here's the we'll call it the opt-in or the call to action of contact me for how much those tips will get you. No one else is going to tell you that because everybody else just puts you through the same system and comes out with the same number. So that would be sort of a personal USP, right? And that it'll be a percentage or it'll be, you'll have a good idea. So that's how I would do it. But I would try to have, if possible, a landing page video that is shot sort of the same way as the ad, and then something after they opt in with another video, generally telling them what to do next. So don't forget, all of the videos have to end in what to do next. And if that's going to be a problem, you can just take a screen cap of one of the frames from the ad video and put that on the landing page, just so that when they click, they go, okay, I am in the right place. I just saw that. Here it is again. I'm in the right place. Hey, their first promise to me was I was going to get this. They've paid it off. Does that help?
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome.
And also, Mark, kind of like what you said, so if you're doing an ad or if you have the tease, if you add cock and paint, you can make it what it ain't, and they click on that, shouldn't that also kind of be maybe the first line in the video on the landing page? So you're reinforcing the same message that caused them to take action. Is like that congruency between what got them to click it and what they see when they land on the landing page, that messaging. And are you like auto playing that video on the landing page or click to play?
I think we set it to autoplay, but it generally doesn't. All the browsers don't let it autoplay now, so we always say to play it. We match our messaging, but maybe not with the promise, because you don't know when in the video somebody clicks through. Not everybody waits until the end to click through. Now, most people do, sure, but so whatever that promise will be, particularly, I usually like to pay off the curiosity or the big bold claim in the first 5 seconds, again on the landing page. So you've had to give it to them in the video, but then restate it on the landing page as well.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Scott?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
no, I mean that,
and then all
and it's kind of what Ricardo said is you've got to eliminate any disconnect between what motivated them to take the action and what happened immediately after that.
and then everything else is just pre-framing. You're framing the conversation how you want it to go. So you're kind of setting tone and expectation for what happens next. I dig it.
Yep. And to be clear, Ricardo, you want in the videos to tell them what to do next. It sounds basic, but we didn't do that. We weren't doing that in this one campaign I'm talking about, and we just added some voiceover with some B-roll because we didn't shoot it, and what we wanted them to do was pick up the phone and call, and it bumped the call rate from 6 to 8%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 33% increase.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Now, you said, Mark, you mentioned that you were doing quizzes. Have you seen any success, or have you seen anybody doing quizzes around mortgage and real estate? And how would you, what do you have any ideas of how you would maybe approach that?
Yes. If you kidnap me, put a gun to my head and said, you have to figure out how to make mortgage and real estate lead gen work in the next 12 hours, or your life is over, I would actually do it with a quiz.
Wow.
So I've become a convert of the quiz. How do I say this?
Tools like lead quizzes.
Yeah, I was using a platform called Outgrow, which was fine. We ended up building our own quiz engine because we wanted some other features and tracking that Outgrow didn't provide. They all seem to do the thing. The big quiz thing is Bucket.io. I tried that. It was fine. But we ended up building our own one. We're spending, let's just say between 10 and 20 grand a day on YouTube and Facebook driving to quizzes right now.
Really? Wow.
Today, not in the past, but every day, including today. And the quizzes are.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Why quizzes? Like I don't even know what this is like. Totally what quizzes?
Well,
just drifting off of any her quizzes.
I'm like quizzes.
Yeah.
How much Scott had to drink today? Apparently a lot.
Yeah. That's why Scott likes me quizzes. I started doing quizzes in August of last year. I was not a big quiz guy. I'd created a couple little things and wasn't impressed. And what quizzes do is people enjoy them, first of all, and you capture a bunch of data that helps you help them. So we always start with
you're segmenting everything.
We're segmenting and we're personalizing. So we always start with some easy questions. It's not in mortgage, but if I was starting in mortgage, is do you own a home now, or are you looking for your first home? Start with very simple, easy, A or B questions.
But so then you might do what style of home is the best fit for you, or something like that, or what?
Like a BuzzFeed quiz, like which Harry Potter house should you be in? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. Would you be in the school at Hogwarts, or what castle should be yours, sort of thing?
Yeah.
But
if you're a Gryffindor, do you buy a Tudor style home? Like, what are we doing over here?
So if my offer was just to continue our offer with improving your home value, is it 1 or 2 stories? Is it block or frame? Just some easy questions to start.
Wow.
And then now those 3 things that may be the 3 tips, you want to lead them to a path where you can give them the tips. Now, I've been testing either paying off a lot of the stuff mid-quiz. So, you have a driveway? Well, make sure that you pressure wash it so it looks better from the street, as an example. Well, I would pay that off after you say, I have a 1 or 2 car, I have a 2-car driveway. Okay, in the next question, I would say, well, what you should do is pressure wash it or put a light paint on it. okay, for your for your yard, is it grass or mulch, or how many trees are in there, whatever, and just lead them down. And we've been testing paying off more answers in the quiz instead of at the very end.
Oh, wow.
So that's almost
it incentivizes them to want to keep going.
How do I increase the sales price of my home quiz? That's what this sounds like, the path that you're going down.
Yeah, that would be one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like, do you have a driveway or do you have a whatever? Okay, great. Try this. So you're kind of almost just answering all of their questions during the quiz. That's actually really smart.
So here's the trick to that. Can I just pay this one off, because you guys will like this? Once they've answered all the questions, then you say, Scott, your home in Austin, Texas is worth $280,000. But if you pressure wash the driveway and do X, Y, and Z that was determined from the quiz, I can tell you exactly how much it would be worth, and no one else can. Please call me or contact me for that specific personalized advice. Right?
Wow.
And people are happy to answer those questions.
Oh my God.
That's a lot.
There's brain matter all over the camera and everything else right now.
No, because this is actually, like, in my brain and in my head, this is actually really easy to do.
Right.
So I have a quiz. I didn't really consider mine a quiz, but I built it in lead quizzes. It's more yes, no. Do you have a Google My Business page? Yes, no. Have you run Facebook ads? No, I never have. Yes, I've tried before. Or, whatever. Have you run Google ads? Have you run YouTube ads? Blah, blah, blah. What I have it do is, once they finish the lead quiz, it fires off into my ConvertKit account, and I have it personalize the email drip campaign based on their answers to the questions. So if they don't have a Google My Business, it fires a lesson on all the reasons you need to create a Google My Business account today. If they said, yes, I have a Google My Business, it says, great, you have one leg up on the competition. Here's some simple strategies or some advanced strategies that you can implement to improve your Google My Business ranking. Like, just translating that to what you just suggested sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, so you're paying off and giving a little bit more value to start the relationship in exchange for their contact information, right?
Yeah.
So I would guess, and this is just a guess, you'll have to test it. There's my cop out again. That if you put some more payoff into the questions, you pay off the prior question with the next part of the next question, I think that your conversion rate on that will probably go up pretty soon.
I was going to say, that's probably giving you a huge, if not substantial, lift on them advancing all the way to the end, right?
Yep. It's our completion rates have gone up too.
I love that advice, giving them the payoff and then asking the next question on the following screen, so they don't feel like they're, oh, when is this going to end? Why do they keep asking all these questions and there's no feedback? So kind of creating that positive feedback loop for every time, reinforcing the fact that they made the right decision to answer that question.
Right.
Boy, here's the next. It's like that positive. It's like the positive feedback loop is built right into the funnel.
Yep. If I could toss you a bonbon each time you had a good answer, Scott, like, yep, it's perfect.
Yes, yep. Click.
That's awesome.
Really cool. This is awesome. This is so unconventional to the conversations that happen in our industry, marketing and lead generation. That this is super essential. And quite frankly, you've got to be different. You got to think a little bit different. You got to be in front of these things. And
I think one of the guests I had on the podcast phrased it really well. So you have to communicate. You have to differentiate yourself. So you have to imagine the consumer sitting down in front of their computer, and they have 5 browser tabs open with 5 different agents. What the heck makes you different? Why should they choose you over those other 4?
Mm-hmm.
So saying I'm number one, I'm the best, it's not really a point of differentiation. Right.
Well, I mean, it is a point of differentiation. It's just not that remarkable of one, right? So if you've got 5 browser tabs open and one of these people has all these awards, and that's the only thing that is different from every other agent, then yeah, that's going to matter, because, it's a kind of proof. But I agree with where you're going with this, Ricardo, which is, if on the other hand, one of the other tabs, let's say my tab, has already rewarded them with these little things, these little tidbits of information through a quiz or whatever it means, that will be an even more that will differentiate me even more than an award from some real estate brokerage that I'm not connected to, don't really know much of anything about. And, I'm going to say something and I'm going to lose all business for Lighthouse. This is how it goes. But, God, how many awards are there out there for real estate agents? I mean, sincerely, there's like a billion awards at every single brokerage. And it's like, it feels like awards are not that special and are mostly undifferentiated anyway. And it really does come down to knowledge. I think one of the biggest things that drives anything on the internet is FOMO, right? And it kind of doesn't matter where you are. If you're doing a Google search, you probably almost certainly have some kind of FOMO operating in the background. Like I can say, for example, that anytime I go to Google to try and find a fix to something, my FOMO is that I'm going to read it, think I understand it, not understand it, and then fuck it up really bad, And so the thing that would draw me to paying an expert, like say a plumber or somebody like that, to come and do the thing that I'm confident in my manliness that I can do, would be if someone can maybe talk to that FOMO just a little bit and be like, hey, you're thinking about doing this yourself, but did you know this, this, and this? It's like, oh God, no, I didn't know. And you just gave me some knowledge to help me. And while the counterintuitive thought there might be, hey, you just told me 5 things I need to know before, messing with the plumbing. And so therefore I'm more expert than before I started reading your quiz, which is true. I'm more of an expert. I'm like marginally more of an expert. And mostly what you've done is you've just expanded my horizon to make me realize that there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know. And if I don't hire the expert, I might miss out on a really quality job.
And if you think forward and you can answer questions that they don't know they should be asking, that's also super powerful. Now, Mark, where are you doing these quizzes? Are these Google quizzes, or because it seems like this would work really well on Facebook, right? Because that's kind of, people love that kind of distraction on Facebook, and they like the Harry Potter characters probably better than home value. But where are you seeing the most success on, or where are you running these quizzes?
Facebook number one, YouTube. We get going and then it falls apart, and then we try to change strategies. So number one, Facebook, number two, YouTube, and then also Google search a bit. We sort of touched on it earlier. In Facebook, you can reach someone who has no idea that they have the problem you solve. On Google search, someone has to be searching for something that you solve. Right. So on Google search, generally, it's harder to get somebody to do a quiz because they want an answer quickly.
Instant gratification.
Right. You're not going to go, hey, plumber, is it the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink? Nobody wants to do that. They want the answers much faster on Google search. But we do have it working in one niche. And it's not a niche that anybody wants to talk about. It's life insurance. No one wants to talk about dying, but we've got one working in life insurance on Google search. But generally, the quizzes don't work as well. And then I have a client that's not me. I'm just a consultant who's doing it for hiring staff, and it's working okay on Google search. We're launching YouTube in the next week or so, and I expect that to do much, much better. But search people generally want the plumber right away, rather than to answer 10 or 15 questions.
I would argue life insurance is about as desirable as a mortgage out of the blue.
Right?
It's all on the same pole.
Yeah, I was just talking to my wife about, we don't need to get a plumber to come fix it tonight for a couple $100. I can fix it for free over the next 3 or 4 months. And she didn't like that. She didn't like that answer.
That's awesome. So
go ahead.
Mark, we have a lot of people who, or I know I talk with a lot of agents who have listing inventory. They're familiar with just running an ad to promote the listing because, it's easy to check a box and get the thing done. That's generally what they do. Running a quiz, building it from scratch, and doing some of these other things sounds like a lot of work. Am I wasting my effort if I'm already shooting like these awesome aerial videos for my listings and doing these, very nicely done video walkthroughs of my listings? Am I wasting money promoting that as a YouTube ad? Do those serve a purpose?
Those ads, I actually believe, serve a purpose, and that's the nurturing part. So you have a sphere of influence, a retargeting audience, an email list, and pushing it out to all of those people, I think, is very important, because those folks
stay top of mind.
You stay top of mind, and they're a referral source, right? Somebody who is vaguely familiar with you is more likely to share, hey, I saw that house, one of Ricardo's houses the other day. That might be a good thing for you. Now on Facebook, it's easy to share, right? It's a button click. It's a lot harder on YouTube. But I think those are still very important part of the mix, and that's part of nurturing. It's also part of your value building and your proof elements. If you're constantly adding new listings, people see that you're constantly adding new listings, and you're
Ricardo's selling everything in the neighborhood.
Right, exactly. So not just the top of mind, but as a proof element, here's another one, and I'm definitely on some of those lists, and I'm not in the market for a new house, but gosh, I look at a lot of them because the right one would make me move. And so I think there's an easy way to make that work is you build a template for the ad that shows a wow picture and a wow feature in the first 5 seconds. It's talking about YouTube right now, and then goes into the drone shot and all the things and everything about it, and then contact me for houses for this or homes like this sort of thing as part of your nurturing strategy. I think is pretty wise, because you're doing it anyway for the listing. So repurposing that content into a specific template, not custom making every one, is the way to go. You'll promote that for maybe $20, for the lifetime of the listing.
I have a question, Mark. Is it a best practice? Like, where does retargeting come in on this? Are you putting a Google and a Facebook pixel on the landing page, and then maybe following them around with a subtle branding, and so maybe they're making an unconscious connection between, Ricardo Real Estate is showing up on my Google searches, maybe. Can you retarget people that are watching your YouTube videos and don't take action?
You can retarget them on YouTube itself, and I believe you can do it on Google Display, although I haven't done it. I don't remember doing it, but I think you can as well. So you can make an audience of people who watched some or all of your videos, and then show them more videos as ads.
From the ad dashboard, but if you take them to a landing page, you can also throw a Facebook pixel in there, and that's probably going to be a super low cost.
Yeah, low traffic, low cost, but high ROI for the few that come through. But I keep a Facebook and Google pixel on everything, and usually do more retargeting on Facebook than Google, because retargeting on Google is Google Display Network, and it's really hard. You just have to have someone constantly getting all the garbage sites out of there. Mm-hmm. When we talk about quizzes or slideshows, right? You click on the slide, the next button, and then you go to click on the next button again, and they threw an ad up there. There's just a lot of junk and fraud on Google Display, in my opinion. There's plenty of people that make it work, but it's easier and cheaper to do it on Facebook, because at a low volume with a constant new set of ads, you'd have to remanage all of that junk, just getting rid of junk that Facebook doesn't.
Google's really smart at getting you to spend your ad budget on accidental clicks.
Yeah, they've been sued for it a couple of times in a couple of different continents, and they've lost, I think, every time. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know Dustin has been sitting here getting antsy about trying to predict what the future of all of these things are. No, I know, Mark, you are really on top of this Apple, iOS, Facebook ads topic. And then what Dustin had mentioned, it sounds like there's some there could potentially be some things that are going down with Google. And I've been seeing news about both social platforms and Google are having some challenges on different continents and different countries. They're changing their advertising platforms. What's out there? Well, first let's talk about the Facebook and Apple. What do laymen need to know about that?
What do laymen need? Okay.
And like somebody it's probably not really, I probably don't know enough to know what it means, but what does it mean? Because everybody's talking about it.
When we talk about that, that sells more advertising and it sells more consulting services, right? Let's be real to start. Most of my Facebook clients, we talk about strategy, scaling, scaling through creative, like very advanced topics. We flip some switches in the beginning and then we're sort of in. All I've talked about for the last month with every single client is Apple versus Facebook and what's going to happen. And the answer is no one knows, including Apple. But there's a few things you can do. The layman, all of us non-Apple, non-Facebook sort of people, non-billionaires should do. For Facebook, you have to verify your domain. So what that does is that lets Facebook know that you really can send traffic to there, and then no one has recommended this, but it's been good practice to verify yourself and verify your business manager. So to do either one of those, they send you a postcard, which is the most low-tech thing in the world, but that's how they verify it.
Yeah.
So verify your domain, yourself, and your business manager. And then the next thing, if you use WordPress or almost any one of the page builder tools, they're updating their plugins that talk to Facebook, Shopify as well. So Apple's going to block your browser from sending back all the tracking information. So Facebook has said, well, I won't use the browser to do that. I'll use your web server to do it. So they're just going around the backside. It's totally legal and above board. If you give Ricardo your email address and then he sends you an email and then he adds you to a remarketing audience, manually or through his automation, that's all above board. Well, Facebook's just going to do that as well. So they have new Facebook plugins for Shopify, WordPress, Magento. There's about 10 or 12 platforms. And then everybody's scrambling to implement this new thing. So if you're using any major provider, you're probably just going to either have to update your plugin or do nothing, and the provider will update it. If you have your own website custom made, you're going to have to do a boatload of work. I was looking at it for a client. They were begging me to get it to custom write it, and I just said I'm not going to do it because it's a moving target.
$1 billion.
Yes, right. I could be a billionaire. So there's a lot of talk and a lot of things that may happen. And let me talk about what the may happens are. Is retargeting. We won't know as well, if at all, who visited your website. So when you go and search for really cool St. Patrick's Day socks, and then you get 15 retargeting ads with all the socks in them, that will probably go away on iOS. Or it'll be less targeted. And then any of your audiences of people will be smaller. So the underlying standard, and again, I geek out on this stuff, the underlying standard is going to change. So they'll still report back that you had a conversion or a lead, but they won't report it back in real time. They take up to 48 hours. And so you'll still get the number of leads and conversions and all these things and purchases, but you won't get them in real time, and you won't be able to normally attribute them to the exact person. So it might tell you that you have 40 leads, but Facebook or Google won't know exactly who those 40 people are anymore. Now,
target specifically those 40 people, is that?
You won't be able to if they're on iOS, possibly. But remember, when you're on Facebook, you're logged into it. So Facebook knows who you are. When you click on a link going off of Facebook, Facebook knows that you went off of Facebook to that link. And then if Facebook's working behind the scenes, it can match up all of your activity on that website back to you, even though Apple's blocking it all. One of the things I'd like to tell everybody that's really in a panic is, okay, Facebook's really making waves about this. Well, full page ads in the Wall Street Journal, everything in the ads manager. If you're a Facebook advertiser, there's like 3 warnings at the top that change,
right.
right? It's a big deal. Google, who makes, billions of dollars on ads, has been very quiet about it. And Amazon, if you follow Amazon, you know that most of their profit comes from Amazon Web Services, all the cloud stuff. Well, their advertising revenue and profits have pretty much eclipsed the cloud computing profits. So they're making billions of dollars on ads, and they've been silent. So if Google and Amazon are pretty quiet about it and Facebook's all up in arms, something's strange, right? You think the 3 of them would unite against Facebook, or excuse me, Facebook, Google, and Amazon would unite against Apple and really make a big deal out of it, but they haven't. So that leads me to believe that the technical solutions are sort of going to work, and it's more of a show. And then related to Google, they had an article, I think, in the Wall Street Journal on Wednesday about they're going to get rid of tracking cookies and individual advertising. Well, I think that they're going to, and also remember that lawyers write those things. So it was very specifically worded that we're going to stop tracking individual activities inside of Chrome or something. It was worded in such a way that they could still track everything else you do on your phone, just not inside of Chrome, right? It was worded very weaselly, I thought. So the same thing's going to happen. They say maybe by the end of the year, so probably a year from now. You might lose your tracking audiences. They might get a little retargeting audiences. They might get a little smaller, but there's plenty of technical solutions out there that will still work and that are above board. There's a number of what do you want to call them? Like third-party dashboards, not Google Analytics, but a bunch of tools that do a lot of attribution reporting that say they're immune to all of this. And they are, by the way they do it. They fingerprint your browser and they figure out exactly who you are in a technical way, except all of that's against Apple's terms of service. So while it works, you can wake up one day and Apple has decided to push kill on that whole business, which they can do. And then you're back to square one and even worse. So what I've been recommending to people who want to do that, I say run it in unison with everything else. If you've been in online and digital marketing for a while, we started by sending someone to a landing page and capturing an email address. We're back full circle to that's a really good idea. Let's build our email list and use that email address to upload to Google, upload to Facebook, and retarget that way as well. So there's a lot of people yelling a lot of things, and no one truly knows what's going to happen, even inside the walls of Apple. They have a pretty good idea. And then another piece of that, I liken it to the spam wars. Like we used to get a ton of spam, and now we get very little. But then every once in a while, you get a whole bunch. Sort of a cat and mouse game between the spammers and the anti-spam. The Gmails and the Hotmails and all and the Outlooks. I think it's going to be a lot like that, where Apple will, turn on the feature in iOS 14.5, and a whole bunch of stuff will happen, and then Facebook, Google, Amazon will all technically react to it, update their plugin, have you update the plugin on your website, and you're back in business. You might be 80% to where you were, but they'll figure it out.
So the takeaway is create valuable content to earn the consumer's trust and put the right message on the right platform and be realistic about your messaging and your conversion, and don't worry about any of that other stuff right now. Because it is, and you'll figure it out.
If you spend as much time figuring out how to be unique and valuable as you do worrying about all these things they want you to worry about, you'll be leaps and bounds above where you are now.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And in my experience, I do this thing called brand therapy, where I sit down with people, a lot of them in real estate, but other industries too, help them to figure out how they can be one of one instead of one of many. It's a process that, escrow, there's a lot of us escrow people, and I had to go through that here with Lighthouse. And, I think that at the end of the day, that is a time-consuming process of figuring out how you're unique. But if you do that right, it's valuable, and oftentimes it takes a good coach to help you kind of think through it. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, Mark, and have you kind of help them think about how to be unique and to, run these kind of creative quizzes and that sort of thing, how would they go about getting a hold of you?
I have a website, directlyresponsible.com, DIRECTLY, responsible.com. Advertisers would get the play on direct response there. It's probably the easiest way. There's a contact form on there, a couple things that I do. Some of it's really geeky. And that's sort of background on me. And if you want to contact me, it'd be great.
And you do consulting. You also, it sounds like you help people structure their own ad campaigns and that sort of thing. So it's not just you're, kind of a coach next to them, but you're also somebody who can help them execute.
Exactly. Yeah. I get lots of people referred to me that think I'm an ad agency where I'll run their ads forever. And I'm absolutely horrible at that, Dustin. I'm really good at solving problems and getting things going. But if you wanted me to manage it day to day, you would better off hiring the neighbor kid, because I like to solve problems, and then the running of accounts is not my thing.
So you can point them in the direction of somebody who can run the account.
Yep, I absolutely have a couple of trusted resources in both Facebook and Google.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, great. And are you anywhere else on the internet? Do you have YouTube, social media, anything you point people to?
I really don't, but if you wanted to go to my LinkedIn, it would be cool. It's LinkedIn/Mark Ingles 0. Mark INGLES, the number 0. Connect with me. I try to stay off of those platforms because I get sucked in just like everybody else. And so I don't have the discipline to not scroll through if I go there. It's the honest truth. I realize that about myself. I'm like, where did my day go? I sat down to write some Facebook ads and now it's 4 p.m. Oh, I doom scrolled. Yeah. Okay. So
awesome.
And Mark is also a co-author on the Ultimate Guide to Facebook Marketing by Entrepreneur Press that you can find on Amazon, right?
Yep, you find that on Amazon. Ultimate Guide to Facebook Advertising, 4th edition. It'll have my name on there on the cover, and I have a book, a really small book, coming out on YouTube ads in the next 60 days too.
Oh,
so,
fantastic.
That'll
Awesome.
that won't be a bookstore book. That'll be like a Kindle self-published deal. So that'll be on Amazon as well.
Great.
Awesome.
And of course, we have Ricardo Bueno, who, according to Mark, said something brilliant. I must doesn't happen. Ricardo, where can people find your podcast and sign up for the brilliance that you share on a weekly basis?
Awesome. RicardoBueno.com. BUENO.
Awesome. Great. Well, hey, thank you, Mark, for joining us today. Really, really good stuff. I love how much terrain we covered. Some surprising stuff. Mostly the quiz that really surprised me. That was not on my horizon. It's something we've talked about today. A lot of fun. Really, really great having you here today.
All right. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the invite.
I want to catch the rest of our podcast, talk about other strategies for using social media, permission marketing versus interruption marketing, all the rest. You can check out our podcast at marketingtrench.fm. We are there with our previous episodes. You can also find the video versions and, of course, the audio accompanies video over at YouTube. We are trying to build up our YouTube presence. So if you can go over to Marketing Trench on YouTube, click the subscribe button and ring the bell to get notifications when we go live, that would be much appreciated. And, of course, you can check out the previous episodes there and see us banter with one another and sometimes make fun of Ricardo's mom. So it's really good stuff. You can also check out...
I missed out.
You were so full of good information. I didn't have a chance to take a shot. No shots on goal today. And then you can check out our sister podcast over at the Real Disrupt Podcast Collaborative. RealDisrupt.com is where you can find those. We've gone long. We're done. It's been fun. Until next time, this has been the Marketing Trench.
Yeah.